The next two tapes are going to cover Israeli tactical knife fighting. Israeli tactical knife fighting is probably the specialty of the house of the Haganah system. Before I get into the technical parts of it, techniques, how we use the knives, I want to introduce you to why Israeli tactical knife fighting is such a specialty of the house. We believe that without you being able to use a knife as a weapon, all your self-defense techniques will be incomplete, in the sense of this is a new era. This is modern combat. There is knives out there. A lot of times you're going to have to use those weapons to defend yourself. There are lots of people say, I don't want to carry a knife because I just don't like it. You're going to have to carry a knife to equalize your weapon. The knife is the greatest equalizer in hand-to-hand combat, in the sense of as soon as a knife is in your hand, it doesn't matter how big he is. It doesn't matter how strong he is. The knife will equalize that instantly. On top of it, you have to look at the history of the Haganah system. The Haganah system pulls out of 4 systems, 2 civilian martial arts and 2 Israeli IDF military tactics, Kapap and Lotar. In both those systems, the knife is a prevalent, strong weapon. In other words, it is a big part of the culture in the Middle East. Throughout the history of the IDF and throughout the conflict between the Israelis and the Arabs, knife attacks have been part of the culture. And because of that, both sides are armed with knives. In other words, you'll have the knife attackers and you'll also have the IDF operators that carry knives. It is important that you learn how to use a knife also as an intelligence gathering, how to deal with the knife attack. If I don't know how a knife attacker is going to attack me with a knife, how the hell can I defend against it? In other words, I'm going to have to learn how to use that knife to be aware of what's coming in. If I don't know how to use a knife, I surely don't know how to defend against a knife. So that's on a tactical level. Also, it is important that you understand the violence involved in a hand-to-hand combat situation. Combat, street fighting, violence is serious business. If you don't bring the weapons into play and the other side does, they'll always have the advantage. So yes, you want to be the good guy, but on the other hand, you don't want to be the underdog in the fight. Therefore, it is important that you build Israeli tactical knife fighting into your curriculum, into your arsenal as an Haganah practitioner. With that in mind, let's get to work. What exactly is tactical knife fighting? Tactical knife fighting can be categorized in 2 components, the tactical part of it and the knife fighting part of it. The tactical part of it is the strategy behind whatever we do. In other words, your knife fighting is going to be integrated within the strategies. If you only do the knife fighting without a strategy, basically you don't have an objective, you don't know where you're going, and you will be lost, and you will only rely on the physical part of it. So the tactical is the strategy part of it. Then is the knife fighting. For you to be a complete knife fighter, you're going to have to be able to integrate both the tactical part of it and the physical part of it. In the physical part of it, we will have deployment, we will have footwork, how to grab the knife, what to do with the knife, slashes, stabs, and so. In the tactical part of it, you will have the strategies. Where do I go with my footwork? Why do I go with my footwork? When do I go with my footwork? So knife fighting is about integrating the strategies with the how to use the knife in relationship to your body, your limb, your footwork, and the timing in the fight. Also, knife fighting involves two people, you and the opponent. Unfortunately, until you fight somebody knife versus knife, you will not have the intelligence gathering how good they are. In other words, you're going to have to build your skill and your mentality to a level that is unbeatable from another side. And that is going to be how you develop yourself as a complete knife fighter. The first thing we have to address is the deployment. Deployment is probably the most neglected part in martial arts training today. A lot of people teach knife fighting, knife defenses, and they always start with one guy already with a knife in his hand, or maybe both of them with the knife in the hand. It has been proven that a lot of people cannot deploy under pressure. It is your responsibility to learn, to drill yourself, to be able to deploy the weapon that you carry under pressure. Now, what exactly is deployment? Deployment is the time and the distance it will take you to take out your own knife and be ready for combat. Now, I repeat that, ready for combat, not only taking it out. So, why am I saying distance and time? It's going to take you a certain amount of time to do so. Okay, a good time would be 1 second. Anytime you can deploy your knife within 1 second, it's good. Now there will be, depending on your skill, where you carry the knife, what type of knife you carry, how comfortable you with the knife, and all kinds of elements like so. Also, you have to work on the distance. Whatever time you take, if it takes you 1 second to deploy your weapon, you're going to be able to cover so many yards away from an attack coming in. In other words, if I see somebody coming at me with a knife and he made it clear that he's going to attack me and I carry a knife on me, I need to find out what is my deployment distance. In other words, if I know that he's 5 feet away and I can deploy my weapon and be ready for combat, I'm okay. If he came closer to that, I'm going to have to compromise that by either opening more distance or throw a technique as a distraction, or somehow steal distance by gaining time. So deployment is the amount of time it takes you to take your knife out ready for combat and how much distance you can cover. I am not going to get into in this tape about what knife you should carry and where you should carry. This is a very personal thing. In other words, you're going to have to choose which knife you want to carry. A lot of it has to do with jurisdictions. You're going to have to check your jurisdictions as far as if you can carry a knife in the state that you operate in. Me as an Haganah instructor, I tell my students to get a concealed weapon permit in Florida. Therefore, it's no longer an issue because they all have concealed weapon permits and they can carry a knife in their pocket. Therefore, I know it's legal. Again, the knife that you're going to purchase, it's according to your needs. Military people carry fixed knives, in other words, fixed blades, and usually it's in a very fast deployment place in the gear. When I was in the IDF, my knife was a caber knife, and it was right here. Anything happening, it was right out right away. If right now I walk around with a caber knife right here, stick to my shirt, people are going to think I'm a psycho, and that's not something I want to advertise that I'm a psycho. I want to keep it to myself. In other words, I keep a folding knife in my pocket, which is much more low profile. So you're going to have to choose your knife and put it according to your objective. If you're civilian, or maybe if you're law enforcement and you carry your firearm here, maybe you don't want your knife right there because your firearm is going to be in the way anyway, and you're going to have to find another place where to put your knife. So deployment is very important, because you can have the greatest knife in your pocket, and if you never got a chance to pull it out and the other side already killed you, basically your deployment was very bad. The best position you can position your knife for deployment for street self-defense is in the lower pocket of your pants. Some people put the knife in the high pocket. That's going to be a liability when you end up on the ground and he's on top of you and you're not going to be able to deploy it. The best thing to do is right here. You want to make sure that the knife that you carry has enough outside that you can actually grip it. That's why I like this specific knife, because it's got a bowl. In other words, if the knife is right here, I can shove my thumb in and the knife is out. Okay, if it was here, it would be possible as well, but when I'm on the ground and somebody is on top of me, I won't be able to deploy it. Your knife has to be able to be deployed when you're standing, when you're sitting, when you're lying down, when somebody grabs you. You want to have access to that knife. Okay, now we're going to address how you hold the knife. You will have two major styles of holding the knife, which is the regular grip and the reverse grip. It is important that you hold the knife properly so you don't lose it in the middle of an engagement. If you lose your knife in the middle of an engagement while the other side has a knife, you basically gave up your life. Okay, the knife is distributed into 4 parts. You got the handle, which obviously that's how you're going to hold the knife. You got the butt hand, which is an impact weapon and pressure point weapon. You got the control part of the blade, in other words, right here, and you got the slashing and stabbing part of the blade. Okay, when you grip the knife, what you're going to do is you're going to grab it with your knuckles first here. Okay, that is done. So when I'm done grabbing, the blade would be aligned with these knuckles, and wherever I go, the blade will follow. If you put the knife into your hand versus here in the joints of the knuckles, you're going to end up not aligned with that, and your slashes will not be in tune with your movements of your forearm and your hand. So again, first you're going to put it right here, clinch it, and hold it. Your thumb is going to go right here. I don't want to see your thumb like this. If you put your thumb like this and you start fighting, they're going to cut your thumb. They cut your thumb, that's going to short circuit you, and again a knife cuts. Okay, in other words, it's going to completely mess you up as far as the pain is concerned. So I want the thumb right here. Okay, do not smother the butt hand. Butt hand, you're going to need it. Sometimes you're going to need to hit with it. Okay, so right here. As far as the knife, right here will be the part that you control, you know, blocks, or maybe you're going into the neck. And right here is the part where you're slashing and stabbing. Every motion you do with the knife, you're going to want to need to keep a loose wrist. Don't tighten up. You're not going to make the knife any sharper by tightening up. Keep it loose. Every time you slash, it is the bottom of the hand that does the penetration. The bottom of the hand, right here, this part is the one that does the penetration. The top part, which is right here in the thumb, dictates where we're going with the knife. So the direction is the top, and the bottom is the penetration of the slashes. Now we go to reverse grip. Reverse grip, same thing happens first. I'm going to grab right here. Don't grab like this. I'm going to grab right here, close my knuckles, and slightly put my thumb here. Do not put your thumb like this. You just lost your impact weapon. Put your thumb right here. Alright? From here, same thing. I want to keep my wrist loose. When you hold reverse grip, don't ever hold it like this. You have closed a gate. If I hold reverse grip, and you'll see in the second tape, which is the advanced tape, we're going to address reverse grip. You want to keep your gate open because it is an entrapping hook motion. As soon as you do this, you basically gave that up. If you're going to hold the knife like that, you might as well hold the knife like this, and you'll have more length and more reach anyway, and it's much better anyway. So again, one, loose. Keep everything nice and loose so you can use that knife in every direction and nice penetration on your techniques. Reverse, you're coming here and here. Do not put your thumb here, same thing here. Keep everything loose. Don't close the gate. Fighting stance in knife fighting is different than hand-to-hand combat. You always want to keep the knife up front. If you're right-handed, obviously you're going to have a right lead. If you're left-handed, you're going to have a left lead. Alright. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step one step forward. Again, as an Haganah practitioner, I expect you to go forward and not go backward. Body language going backward is telling him you're scared. If you're coming in, you're jamming in, and it's more of an intimidation, and you will always dominate by intimidate your opponent. So I'm going to take one walking step forward. The walking step is there because I don't have to think about it, and it's instinctive. As soon as I did so, I am going to rotate myself just a little bit, and I'm going to pick my rear heel up. My rear heel is important that it is up. It is my spring load. In other words, this is how I'm going to generate my motion as far as my footwork is concerned. I want to keep a distribution of 50-50. In other words, I don't want to lean forward and all my weight is up front, and I definitely don't want to lean back and then I lose that heel being up. I want to be 50-50, nice and comfortable. My hand is going to go up that the knife is in front of my chest. I don't want the knife in front of my face. If I put the knife in front of my face, as human beings, we're going to see sharp here and scenario. In other words, the person that's attacking you is going to look all blurry. I want to have a very sharp image of the attacker that's attacking me in front of me. So the knife is in front of my chest. I keep it 90 degree. My hand is 90 degree out. I don't have the knife like this and then I'm collapsing. The knife is out and the blade is in a 45 degree angle facing my opponent. My other hand is going to be in front of my neck. Not down here, definitely not here. I want to protect my neck at all costs. Because he has a knife, the neck is the place that I need to protect the most in the knife fight. If he cuts me in my forearms, he cuts me in my shoulder, I'll survive. He cuts me in my neck, in my throat, I'm dead. So I'm going to put my hand right here, right in front of my neck. This is your fighting stance. There is no other fighting stance in knife fighting. Every time you fight, you're going to have to find yourself here. Every time you move around, you're going to have to reposition here. Okay, given the fact that you got it in a proper fighting stance and you have a proper grip on the knife, now you're ready to move. The first set of footwork will be going forward. When I go forward, I'm going to generate the energy of going forward with the rear heel. In other words, I'm going to push off from the rear heel. Whatever I push off, I'm going to take a step and close the gap. I don't drag my footwork. In other words, I'm not moving this foot first. The first thing I'm moving is pushing off. This is going to spring load my footwork. In other words, I'm going to have a little jilt into it and it's going to kind of supercharge my motion. If I drag my footwork, just like it sounds, it's a dragging motion, it's much slower. Everything upstairs remains the same. It remains the same. In other words, I'm moving forward, but I'm not moving anything upstairs for no apparent reason. I'm here, moving forward. Moving forward. It is important that you don't make big steps. If you make big step, that is considered a lunge. If I have an opponent with a knife that lunges at me, and I cut the angle on him, and I counter, it's impossible for him in mid-lunge to change his attack. You're better off to go 1-2 little steps than one big step and realize that you made a mistake. So everything you do has to be loose, nice, coming in. Again, in, and coming back in. Anytime we go forward, it's considered offensive. Every time I'm going to go forward, I consider myself engaging. Okay, later on we're going to apply the technique with the footwork and put it together. But anytime you're going forward, you're attacking. Anytime you're going backward, you're defending. Again. Okay, now I'm going to have to go backward. Going backward is different. I'm in my fighting stance, and I decided tactically to back up. In other words, either I'm overwhelmed with whatever's coming in, or either the situation dictates that I need to pull back. On this one, I am going to have to pull my front leg first. In other words, my front leg has to clear first. If I push my back leg first, what happens is I keep this as a target, and later on you're going to see that the front leg is going to become a target in knife fighting. In other words, I'm going to have to clear all my front backward in one motion. That will be done by doing what I call a half pendulum. I am going to come back by pendulum myself, half pendulum. It's called a half pendulum because a full pendulum technically is 1, 2. And that looks like I'm dancing, and I'm not wearing a pink leotard in this video series, so I'm not getting into dancing. In other words, I'm coming backward with a half pendulum right here. Again, now if I break it down slow, what I'm basically doing is I'm bringing my front leg to meet my back leg and then collapsing my weight and reposition. So two things are happening here. I have my physique or my mechanics of my body doing 1, 2, and I have the weight distribution of 50-50 becoming 100% in the center and redistributing 50-50 again. So you got two things working at the same time. Basically, you're supercharging your speed. In other words, it's the mechanics and the weight distribution that allows me to move faster. Again, I'm here and coming back here. Again, here and coming back here. Alright, throughout this series you're going to hear me talking about a clock strategy. The clock strategy follows that Carlos in relationship to me is at 12 o'clock and I'm the center of the clock. So here will be 3 o'clock, here will be 9 o'clock, and right behind me will be 6 o'clock. So you're looking 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock. A lot of times you'll hear me say, I'm going to move into 2 o'clock. That will be for me to position myself according to the relationship between the both of us. So you got 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. You got 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Most of the time throughout the video series, I'm going to use the hours that are towards this half of the clock. A couple of them will go towards the back. But most of the time it'll be either 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Each one of those hours have a relationship to right and left. 1 o'clock is the same thing as 11 o'clock, just it's on the right or left side. 2 o'clock is the same thing as 10 o'clock, just right side, left side, and finally 3 and 9. Okay, this brings us to techniques. You have 3 techniques that you can do with a knife systematically. You can slash, basically you're cutting through. When you slash, it will be done with this part of the knife, right here, the top part of the knife, and the slash is generating from the wrist. In other words, from the wrist, it's the generation of the penetration. You have the stabs. You have the stabs. Basically stabbing, you're taking the dagger part of the knife and sticking into the target that you will choose. When we stab in the Haganah system, it's like a poke. I'm trying to create a hole as fast as possible and reposition out. And finally, you have the blocks. The blocks will be me stopping what's coming from his incoming side with this part of the knife. So if he's coming with the knife, I will be blocking with the knife right here. If I violate that and I block with this, he'll penetrate. Am I going to slash him? Yes, but he will penetrate. So again, I got the slashes, I got the stabs, and I got the block. That brings us to the pyramid concept of attacks and slashes and stabs. Alright, the pyramid is a tool that we use to train a practitioner how to use the slashes and how to use the stabs and combinations as well. Pyramid works that there will be a square in front of you about 3 feet by 3 feet right in front of you. Imagine a square right in front of you. You take that square and you cut it in half with a diagonal. You take that square and cut it in half with a diagonal across. You cut it in half with a horizontal, and you cut it in half with a vertical. So basically you just created a square that is cut into a pyramid motion. That is the diagram I am going to use as far as me attacking. Now for learning purposes, you're using a big pyramid. We call this a pyramid because it's like you're looking at the bottom of a pyramid, and in relation to me, the pyramid is going out. All right, in the beginning, it's going to be a big pyramid. As you get better and tighter, you're going to make a smaller pyramid. And finally, you're going to make it the size of the target you're attacking. And we'll show you in a second in relationship to your opponent. Okay, the first techniques you're going to have following that pyramid are the slashes. Now, the reason why the pyramid is big in the beginning is for muscle memory programming. In other words, you're learning the techniques, and usually when you learn a big technique, you're going to ingrain it into your muscle memory. So I'm getting into my fighting stance, I'm getting my grip of the knife properly. I'm going to follow the lines that are on that pyramid. The first one will be a slash down. In other words, I'm slashing down. That is considered first angle in the pyramid, right here, slash down. Now I can travel on that line upward as well. 1, 2. So that line has 2 traveling routes. 1 and 2. Second one will be the other diagonal. That will be considered the second angle. Again, I can travel down and I can travel up. So I got down and up. It is important that every time you slash with the blade. In other words, when I went this way, blade was facing my opponent. When I go upward, I'm going to have to turn the blade and go with the blade. Don't go this way, you're going to end up getting stuck or basically raking him instead of cutting him. So same thing. This is 1, this is 2. And of course you can travel down, up, and down. Then you got to cross. You got to cross from this side and you got to cross from this side. So that will be considered angle 3, angle 4. All right? Finally, you got downward, upward. So altogether you have 8 lines of slashes. Diagonal down, diagonal up, diagonal up, diagonal down. Horizontal to this side, horizontal to this side, down and up. 8 lines of slashes. Now, as you practice your slashes, you're going to follow those lines. The reason for that is, if you attack according to those lines, you're never going to get stuck with your knife. Human flesh is flexible, muscle is flexible, skin is flexible. If you start doing like round motion on skin, you're going to get stuck. The skin gets all tangled up and you can't cut through. As long as you follow this technology of slashes, you're going to slash through up to the bone. In other words, the slash will penetrate. You're going to go through the skin, through the what we call soft tissue organs, the veins, the muscles, the skin, the fat. You're going to go right through it up to the bone. If you start doing any Picasso motion, in other words, round motion, it's not going to work. So every time you slash, you're going to follow those lines of that pyramid. Now, as you get better, of course, you're going to start tightening up, because I don't want to exaggerate my motion and travel negative. Travel negative means as long as the blade is going to my target, it's considered positive. As soon as I'm done cutting and I continue traveling, that's considered negative. Anytime I'm in negative, he can collapse me by either trapping me or by simply attacking me with his knife. I want to cut down the negative. In other words, I want to have as less negative as possible, because that's the weakness of the motion. Therefore, when you make the pyramid smaller, there is less negative. And finally, you make it to the size of a target. Next, you will have 9 points of stabs using that same pyramid. If you look at the diagram where the lines are meeting, there's going to be 1 point in this corner, 1 point here, 1 point here, 1 point here, down corner, 1 point here, 1 point here, and 1 point here. That makes 8 on the outside and 1 point of connection of all the lines in the center. 9 points of stabs. Now every time I stab, and this is why we call this a pyramid concept, I'm going to stab inward the pyramid. In other words, if I'm taking the top corner here, I'm going to stab this way, not this way. If I end up stabbing this way, you're going to see in relationship to an opponent, I end up slashing versus stabbing. Right now I'm working on stabs, and I want to make sure that all my stabs are penetrating and basically making damage as a stabbing motion, not as a slash. So again, I got all those 9 points straight in the center, this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner, straight from underneath this corner. Now every time I stab, my hand remains here. I keep everything the same. My footwork stays the same, and only my weapon, or only what I'm working at right now, is moving. Everything else remains the same. Following the pyramid concept, the slash and the stabs, you can start building combination. The first combinations we're going to start working on is slash and stab. Basically what I'm going to do is, whatever line I traveled on the slash, I'm going to reverse and stab. In other words, if I took the diagonal down, I slash and stab. If I take diagonal on this side, slash and stab. I basically reverse it into a stab. Slash, stab, slash, stab. Slash, stab, slash, stab, slash, stab, slash, stab. Every motion is reversed. They will build you a combination. In other words, you not only slashed him, you just came back with a stab, so you're going to shock him. A lot of time in a knife fight, when people get slashed, they don't feel it. In other words, the adrenaline is kicking in, and the slash is not felt right away, in the sense of, because there's so much stress, there's so much adrenaline pumping in, they didn't realize they got slashed. Now you did the damage, but you did not shock them, in the sense of they didn't feel it. And it's the stab who's going to come back with that shock, which will be the short-circuiting him as far as being effective. On the same token, you can have stab and slash. Now stab and slash is a little bit different. I'm taking a stab. I'm going to have to rotate the blade to come with a slash. In other words, if I took that stab, I don't want to disconnect, come out of this flash, and then slash him again. That will be considered two attacks. It will be the stab, come back, slash. I want to create damage by stabbing him, keeping the point of my knife into his flesh, hooking it, and slashing. So his wound will be a hole, a hook, and a deep slash. Again, stab, hook, and slash. Stab, hook, and slash. Anytime I stab, I hook, turn the blade, and slash. Stab, hook, and slash. Stab, hook, and slash. Again, I'm following all those points that I have. Now, if you are looking at on a mathematical view of it, you have 8 slashes to begin with. You have 9 stabs. You have 9 stabs. You have 8 slash and stab combinations. And you have 9 stab and slash combination. 8 multiply 9 multiply 8 multiply 9. This is how much possibilities you have in your attacking modes. Okay, if you multiply those numbers and you attack somebody following this pyramid, there is not one human being on earth who's going to be able to cope with that pressure of stress coming in with all these attacks. So when you attack using the pyramid motion, you're coming in with those combinations, one after the other, overlapping. He doesn't know where it's coming from, he doesn't know what's next, and you keep attacking, keep attacking. That's going to overwhelm him, short-circuit him, and damage him to the point of that you basically eliminate him or terminate him. Okay, you're going to have to learn to free flow. In other words, you use all those techniques in a free flow. Again, right now we're doing big motion because I'm illustrating muscle memory. Stab and slash, 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 stab, stab, slash. You have to go as fast and as slow as you can record what you're doing. I don't want you to end up doing this and flailing your knife and you don't know what you're doing. The difference between us and the animals is that we control our action. I don't want to do an action that controls me. In other words, you have to do the drill and the training recording what you're doing. So you basically saying to yourself, slash, slash, stab, stab, slash, slash and stab. Then you know exactly what you're doing. Therefore, you're in control of the motion. Now we're going to go into a free flow drill. I want you to be able to get better at what you do following this drill. In the beginning of the drill, you're going to see me doing wide motion following that pyramid. I'm going to do it slow first for muscle memory. Then I'm going to take the same wide motions and speed it up. Then I'm going to pause and tighten up the pyramid. Make slow motion medium, medium speed, medium motion. Then I'm going to tighten up faster. And finally, I'm going to go into what we call target motion, which will be the actual way I'm going to attack with the blade. All right? Here comes the drill. Okay, following the pyramid concept, you're going to attack your targets. Okay, in fighting stance. Okay, your primary target in a knife fight is his hand holding his knife. You have no business coming over here and starting to go to work without clearing his front knife. In other words, I am going to use the pyramid that I've used before, but that pyramid is going to become a real 3 by 3 inches. And that's how I'm going to attack that hand. So if I took a slash, I'm going to take a slash right here. If I took a stab, I'm going to just poke him in the hand, try to make him lose the knife, or maybe retreat, and then I can trap. Or I can work in combination, slash and stab. Okay, and then what we'll do is you start adjusting the targets as you engage. All right, so your first target is the hand. It does not take a lot for a knife to nip the tendon or the finger for him to lose the knife. The only people who will keep the knife after you nip them or either stab them in the tendons here are people that are under the influence or either alcohol or drug that they can't feel it. That's the only people who will keep it. Now, if they ended up keeping the knife, the tendon and nervous system will end up retracting the motion even if they don't want to do so. And then you'll have a trap to begin with, so it's not really irrelevant. In other words, your first target is that hand holding the knife. Secondary target will be the mobility. Mobility is the tendon right here, or the tendon on the inside. In other words, I'm going to try to use that pyramid into a slash right here. If I cut him on the tendon here, and he tries to move towards me, he's going to collapse this way. In other words, I took his mobility out. If I collect his tendon on the inside with across the pyramid this way, he's going to collapse this way. In other words, I took his mobility out of that. After that, I get a freebie on killing him, basically. And only then your third target will be his throat. And the same thing happens here. I put like a little pyramid as a target. If I'm stabbing, I'm coming stab here. If I'm slashing, I'm slashing here. If I'm stabbing and slashing, it'll be one coming in, hooking, and slashing down. So my pyramids are starting to be on his body. Primary target, the hand. Secondary target, the mobility. Third target, the neck. Those are primary target. Then you have what I call secondary target. In other words, targets that are there for management of the fight, not as objectives. There will be his forearms, cutting his forearms. I cut his forearms, I'm not going to terminate him or incapacitate him. It's just going to help me with the management of the fight. Cutting his legs, not the tendons, his legs. Cutting his abdominals, cutting his shoulder. Those are secondary target that if you ended up taking it in the process as a transition, that's okay too. Carlos is getting his fighting stance and I am in my fighting stance. I have to combine my footwork with my pyramid to engage. If I don't do that, or if I violate that order or that combination of the two, I'm going to be the underdog as I engage. For an example, if I step in and only then slashing, while I step in, Carlos can start attacking. If I reach to do my pyramid and I'm out of reach on the negative, if he steps in with his footwork, then he's going to end up attacking me. So in other words, I'm going to have to apply my footwork and the pyramid on engagement. That's called proper engagement. All right, as I said before, primary target is going to be the hand. Therefore, I am going to enter with a slash and stab, but I'm going to push off my footwork going forward at the same time. So basically what will happen is slash and stab. Okay, that will be my engagement. Again, slash and stab. Now, according to what you like, some people like to come diagonal and stab. Some people like to come horizontal across. You can go there and stab here. It doesn't really matter. The slash will take care of nibbling him in the tendons of fingers, either disarming him or either retracting, and then you'll get a freebie on the stab. It is important that you understand negative in relationship to the engagement. If you stepped in and then you do, then you're going to have that negative that's a half beat that Carlos can attack. If I combine my footwork with the slash, what will happen is a slash works this way. If you look at the knife now, it works this way. Half of it is positive, then automatically there's the negative. If I imply my footwork at the same time, what will happen is the knife will travel this way. In other words, my footwork is going to steal that negative. Okay, it's an optic illusion, but the knife never, even though my action retracted, because I'm pushing off with my footwork, knife always traveled forward. That's called stealing the negative. And that's called having a proper engagement. So every time I engage, it's footwork, slash, and stab. Any of those combinations, slash and stab. I don't want to see my Haganah students going straight for a stab, ignoring that hand. I don't want to see my Haganah students only fishing for a slash, because if he retracted his hand and now he comes in, you did not occupy the line in the half beat. It's important you understand. Every technique I throw, if it's a slash or if it's a stab, that's considered a full beat. Things in between are called half beat. The half beat I establish by supercharging your footwork in combination of your techniques, and that will give you the edge in the knife fight. People that are uneducated about knife fighting look at it and say, wow, they're quick. They're not quick. They are inserting half beats in between. We're both in a fighting stance, okay? I'm deciding tactically to cut the angle to engage with, okay? This is a tactic that's a little bit more advanced than a regular engagement. Instead of me coming straight on with a slash and stab, I'm going to decide to cut the angle, okay? Cutting the angle means angling up and rotating my opponent, and there is a tactical reason why I'll do so. If I'm here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here, okay? Maybe he came in with a straight stab and I angled up to avoid that, or maybe I initiated the angling up to begin with, okay? As soon as I'm here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine that somebody's got a cable to my ankle and it's being yanked this way, and automatically I cut the angle. Watch again. In other words, if Carlos came in for a stab and I'm here, I rotate and cut the angle. What this does now, anything Carlos is going to do, he's going to have to turn his guns first. And that puts me in a half beat ahead of him footwork wise. In other words, I get a half beat for free. Alright, so again, I'm here, one here, rotate here. By turn, I can already attack, and he's completely mine. That is called cutting the angle. If you learn to cut the angle, and you actually use this as part of your engagement, you will always have the advantage. This is considered a strategy to rotate your opponent. In other words, I came here and I rotated him. While he rotated, I get the half beat, versus that if I'm only here me against him. Now it's skill against skill. In other words, it's who's going to have better engagement. When I rotate him, I already have the half beat on top of him. He's going to have to be super fast, and most likely he's not going to be able to do it, because what happens is, if you look at the knife in relationship to our bodies, my knife is already close to him. His knife is all the way in the back. By the time he rotates, it's too late. Okay, just like we engaged, now we're going to disengage effectively. Okay, the disengagements will work that I feel that Carlos is coming in, and somehow I have a sixth sense telling me I'm not ready to cut the angle, I'm not ready to defend myself, and it's better for me to back up. If I back up, I'm going to use the footwork I used earlier. In other words, I'm using the half pendulum. But if I simply move back and use the half pendulum, he's going to keep coming with his attacks, and sooner or later I'm going to either collapse, or either the environment is going to confine me that I can't back up no more. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to stab and back up. What I'm doing is I am throwing my knife in there to occupy the line. All I am doing is I am throwing the knife right to his face. This will create one of the two. If I poke him in the eye, bingo. If I didn't and he blocks it with his hand right now, he's going to feel ouch here, and for a minute he'll forget that short circuit him, he'll forget about his attack. Or if he simply flinches backward, that's defensive. Then I got the time to back up. In other words, I'm one here and backing up. Every time I disengage, I'm going to throw a quick knife jab or a quick stab in direction to his face, so it gets his attention. Either he'll jilt back, either he'll go to block, or either it gets actually poked up, and I disengage. Then I can assess again and come back properly into a proper engagement, or what I call an effective engagement. So again, if you feel that he comes in and he's rushing you in and you did not feel ready yet, don't be afraid to disengage, because if you were stubborn and stayed stationary and for a second kind of like got into a shock, it's going to cost you with your life. So if you have to disengage, you disengage, occupy the line, proper footwork, reposition, rotate him, and coming back into a proper engagement. All right, we already addressed the issues of engagements, cutting up, cutting the angle. If I do not have the choice of the engagements, in other words, I did not initiate the attack, he already is in flight with his attack, or I didn't get a chance, my timing was off, and I didn't cut the angle, and he's already in flight with his attack, I'm going to have to refer to counters. In other words, knife versus knife, what do I do specifically against that attack? The first attack will be the first angle of the pyramid. Again, it's coming down this way. It could be a stab, and it could be a slash. I treat it the same way. The speed and the timing and the stress and the pressure, I'm not going to be able to identify. My knife is up front. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the knife as my block. Okay, if you remember from the tape of the knife defense here, it would be seizing. Since I have a knife, instead of using my empty hand, I am going to use the block as my weapon. Okay, so he comes in, angling up. It's the same thing here. I am going to angle up, so I getting more focus. Also, if I angle up, technically he passes me. In other words, he's not going to slash me. That's pretty tricky depending on the length of the knife and also the penetration, but it's a form of defense as well. But my true defense is blocking with the blade. Come on in, right here. Okay, 9 out of 10 on this connection, they will pull back or drop the knife. And basically, that is done. Now for the other people, I'm coming one here and I'm going to step in. Watch what I'm doing. I'm coming in. One, step in and trap it. From here, slash, stab, out we go. Okay, again, I'm coming in. One, slash, stab, and cut, and out we go. Every time I pull out, I'm going to close the door on my opponent. And I'll do so by taking his mobility. If I took his mobility on the way out and he's bleeding to death, he cannot come to me and kill me in the same process. In other words, I close the door. Again, I'm here. 1, 2, 3. Take the mobility and out we go. Now, it is important that you look at the timing upstairs. Don't let go and then trap. If you let go, now he's free and he's going to cut you and he got his objective. You're going to use that block to overlap. When I have it here, then I come in, / 1 here, and out we go. All right, Carlos comes in with that same attack. Now, sometimes you have to realize that timing is not only up to you. In other words, you timing in the fight does not only rely on what you're going to do. There's a different person engaged in this engagement, which is your opponent. Sometimes he's very fast. Sometimes the attack is already in motion and you did not have the timing to go here. In other words, you froze for a second. If you fail to move into a dominant position, you're better off letting that attack pass and attack on the negative or counter on the negative. In other words, right here I attacked on the positive. It basically was an interception. That will require you to stay calm under pressure. It will require you to have the confidence to engage, and that's going to have to be developed over time. Now, I'm going to take you into, I'm here and I let it pass. As soon as I let it pass, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my blade and my trap. 1 here and 1 here. I connect with the blade first. In other words, I let it pass. Don't go like this, because if I go like this, he can slice you up. It is the pain that's going to make him short circuit by me putting here and coming here. From here, again, 1, kidney shot, take the mobility and out. Again, I came here, let him pass, throw your blade in there, and trap by the elbow. Right here, by the elbow, and kind of like pin it to him. From here, don't waste your time. As you travel here, you're going to end up slashing here and fillet him. Slash through, kidney shot. When you stab somebody in the kidney, it short circuits his whole system. And from here, I'm coming down on the tendon, slack out, and he'll collapse. Okay? Again, I let it pass. 1, 1, 2, slack out. Go on this side, please, Carlos. Let it pass. 1, 1, 2, slack out, and there we go. Okay, Carlos went here, and I passed in, I came in. Right here, look what I'm doing. I'm going to enter 1, 2. See what I'm doing, my footwork? I'm entering to slash, so my stab is nice and strong. From here, I'm going to cut the angle. It's the same thing again. It's like having a cable to my foot, and somebody yanks it here, cut the angle here, slash, and out I go. Okay, again, I'm letting pass, 1 here. Slash and stab, enter, cut the angle in here. You always cut the angle because right now, after I cut him, he's going to collapse that way anyway. You don't want to cut him here and he collapses here. If anything, he's going to pull you into a ground fight with the knife, and that's going to be very ugly. Always go out where you know he's not going to collapse into. Carlos is coming down now with the angle 2. Again, the first thing I'm going to do is move out and angle out to this side. In other words, this is one of these times that you're going to end up switching the lead, like we said in the footwork segment. So I'm coming here. As I do so, I'm going to shoot my blade as my block. My other hand is going to go by my neck as a precaution. In the empty hand segment, we were catching positive, negative. So now I got a knife, I'm going to use that knife to my advantage. And I put the other hand by the neck. If you're paying attention techniques here are overlapping in principles from the techniques in the empty hand. I try to program my practitioners in the Haganah system with as less techniques as possible so I can train you as fast as possible. It is the same methodology that is used in the IDF. When the young soldiers come in, they got to train 2-3 months, 4 months the most, and they get deployed. We don't have years to train them. The same thing happens in the Haganah system. It is not my objective to train you for 10 years and finally you can defend yourself. I want to give you the system, you train a few months, and you're ready to go. So the principle overlap. And the footwork is the exact same footwork, okay? Instead of me reaching, this time I'll use the knife. All right, from here, same thing will happen. I am going to go for a trap. I'm going to step in and regain my fighting stance. In other words, if you're paying attention, I switched over now. As I step in, I'm going to take this foot and regain my fighting stance, and I'm going to trap by the elbow. From here, I'm going to slash and stab. I have no business starting slash and stab before I trap, because Carlos is going to just drive that knife into my throat if I do so. So again, 1, 2, 3, same shot, slash across, kidney. From the kidney shot, I'm going to take the mobility again, and again, I'm closing the door, we're cutting the angle. Again, it is the same methodology. I came in here, 1. From here, 1, 2, cut the door, and cutting the angle on the way out. Okay, same thing happens on this angle. Maybe you didn't feel comfortable moving, the timing wasn't there, it caught you off guard, and simply at the moment, it feels better to let it pass. Again, he comes in, I let it pass. As soon as Carlos is on the negative, I'm going to come in. My hand goes here, and I plug it. I don't grab it. If I grab it and he twists over there, I'm going to go with it, and he controls me. If I plug it and he tries to move, I let it be. Okay, again, so I'm here, I let it pass, and right away here, I plug here, and my blade is shooting for the bicep. I'm shooting right for the bicep. From here, I'm going to slash across the abdominal, slash, and I'm going to take the tendon this time, coming out this way, staying away from the blade. Again, I'm coming in, letting it pass, 1 here, slash, stabbing the abdominals, 1, and out I go. One more time. And out I go. Second one. That brings us to angle number 3. Carlos comes across, right horizontal into my abdominal. Again, across, right horizontal. The first thing again I'm going to do is I'm going to angle out for the reason of getting him more focus, get myself a little bit more space. Same thing here. So I'm coming here. As I do so, I'm going to use the knife again as a block. Right here, my other hand goes by the neck just in case he got through, and I want that hand to protect my neck no matter what. I have no reason reaching out. I reached out earlier here because I had no weapon. If I have a weapon, I'm going to use the weapon as my shield. So again, I'm coming here, 1 here. From here is the same thing as we did earlier, just is downstairs. I'm going to enter and trap. When you trap, plug, don't grab. If I did grab here and he turns the hand here, now he controls me and it's a problem. Okay, so again, I came in, 1, trap. From here, slash across the abdominal, stab him, angle out, and take his mobility out, close the door on the way out. Again, I'm here, 1, 2, angle out, and here we go. Again, we'll have the same methodology in case I didn't feel good with the timing on sidestepping and he caught me off guard. I can let the attack pass and attack on the negative. In other words, when he came first, this is attacking the positive. If I didn't feel confident, I come here, attack the negative, which is less dangerous. I'm going to use the blade and my hand to trap. From here, same thing as earlier. Slash, step in, stab. Angle out, take his mobility. One more time. I'm here, let it pass. One here. As I slash and stab, step in, stab in the kidney. Angle out, take the mobility, and you disengage. This time Carlos comes across horizontal from this side to this side, right here. Again, the first thing I'm going to do is angle out for the sake of getting him off focus and also giving me a better angle on my counter. As I angle out, I am going to use the knife block to the hand. Other hand is going to go by the neck just in case. Again, here I ended up switching my lead. You're going to have to recompensate for that. Again, he comes in. One. From here, as I step in, I'm going to trap. Slash, stab the kidney. From here, take out the mobility and angle out. Go on this side, please. Same thing happens again. I go one, step, slash and stab, take out and angle out the angle. On the same token here, I can again let it pass. In other words, I got stressed out, I didn't feel comfortable going over there, I let it pass. On the negative, I trap. One to the bicep, one trapping here. Remember not to grab with your thumb. If you do so, you're going to go wherever he wants you to go. You're just here plugging. The angle on the bicep is straight on. If anything now, you feel a jilt, schlock, and you'll open his bicep this way. It's good for you. From here, slash, stab him in the abdomen. That brings us to knife sparring. Before I get into the technical part of it, I want to explain why we do knife sparring, what are the advantages and what are the liabilities of knife sparring. You must include knife sparring in your knife tactical training. If you do not spar with knives, you're never going to understand the dynamics of timing. You're never going to understand the dynamics of entries. You're never going to understand the relationship between you and an opponent. And it is something you're going to have to do within your techniques and in your training. So it is a necessity for you to develop the timing issue. However, the liability of sparring is you're not sparring with real knives. And in a certain sense, you are building a wrong sense of confidence because you're actually not getting cut or you're not getting basically terminated. So you're going to have to fine-tune your knife sparring that it still stay realistic, but you still get the training. That is done in the Haganah system with the time limit on the knife sparring and also the training knives that we use. The time limit in knife sparring in Haganah is 30 seconds. I always say with knife attacks, it's one encounter, one chance. You're not going to get a second chance with a knife situation. In other words, if your engagement was bad, you got cut, engagement is over. So it's 30 seconds only versus a 2-minute sparring or 3-minute sparring round if you're doing boxing, kickboxing, or any other style of sparring. So it's a very short amount of time that is also used so the adrenaline is pumping, all right? And then we have all kinds of little drills that we do within the sparring so we pick up the stress that's coming in. Using knife sparring knives in the system will help you also on a marking level. In our system, we use two types of training knives for the knife sparring. The first one being a military rubber training knife. This is a knife that's flexible. This is used at the first level of knife sparring because it's a forgiving knife. In other words, when it hits you, it is flexible and it doesn't hurt that much. If you look at the edge of the knife, I have a possibility to put either chalk or either lipstick, so it be used later on for marking, so you have a monitor or how you're doing on your knife sparring. So this is the first one, the first level. Later on, you'll be introduced to a hard knife that has a marker. When you spar with this knife, it is less forgiving. In other words, when you start nipping in the hands, it's going to hurt. This illustrates more of a reality without getting cut, because it's actually hurting you, and when they're going to nip you, you're going to pull your hand just out of the instinct of the pain. So this is the first level, again, flexible, it'll give. This is the second level of knife sparring. It is less forgiving. Both of them have edges that you can mark them, so you will have a monitor of how you're doing in your knife sparring. Okay, according to those knives, you're going to have the training knives, and you have to understand knife sparring. It is not a sport. There's not a 1-0, 1-1. It has nothing to do with scoring. What you are building in your knife sparring is an instinctive skill to be able to go in and out engagements, to be able to read. When he comes for an attack, you're going to have to learn to read what's coming in as it comes in. If you can't read, you can't deal with it. In other words, right now when you spar with a knife, you're going to be a little bit stressed out because it's dynamic. Just think about when the guy has a real knife in his hand and he's coming with the real intention to hurt you. Therefore, the knife sparring will kind of like duplicate that, or will make you give you a feeling. But remember, at the end of the sparring session, it did not cut you. So there is a plus to it and there's a minus to it, and you're going to have a good trainer to teach you how to insert stress drills into the knife sparring so it still stay realistic, even though we don't have real knives. All right, I'm facing Carlos, Carlos is facing me. Now before we get into the actual techniques, I want to remind you of primary targets. My primary target is going to be to nip his hand. Any cut or any nip I do on his hand is basically either disarming him or either collapsing him into he's going to need to pull his hand, and then I get a freebie. So you're going to see that my main target to begin with will be the hand. Secondary target will be take out the mobility. In other words, the tendon on this side or the tendon on this side. And then I will have the shoulder. We use the shoulder in Haganah as a target simulating the neck. If I get him across the shoulder, it would have been just like I cut him across the neck. If I poke him straight in, it would have been just like I got a stab in the neck. We stay away from the face because I don't like to program my practitioners to have too much gear on. Every time we train you, we want to bring you as much as possible to the reality. In other words, if you start having a helmet, headgear, then your confidence will be false in the sense of you're not going to care that that knife is going to poke the helmet. So our target as a training device is the shoulder, but it's still going to have the instinctive defensive movement behind it. All right. When you knife spar, it is important that you understand the quality of your entry. In other words, your entry is very important. If your entry is sluggish and slow, you're basically getting in the line of fire of his knife. You got to be very careful. A lot of people, beginners that start knife sparring, they get too excited and they start just slashing each other all over the place. In reality, after one good slash, you're incapacitated. So that's not reality. It's in and out. One engagement, one chance. So I don't want you to get in the habit of like, oh yeah, this is great. I love knife sparring. Let's do it all night long. No, you want to get in and out. Every engagement, in and out. All right, for instance, what? Right there's a nip. He got disarmed. Right there, mobility. Right there in the neck. Okay, you're going to have to learn to be sneaky. In other words, don't always fighting stance. Sometimes I'll fake down here and I'll go up always try first here. Now, I know Carlos. Carlos knows me. He's been my student for 13 years. In the street, you do not know how good he is. In other words, you don't know how fast he is. You don't know if he's got good entry. You don't know if he's got any training to begin with. You always want to take out his knife first. Now sometimes you're going to go here, and every time you try to get that hand, he pulls it out, then you know, okay, that's a trained person. Because most people that are not trained will leave that hand there, or will actually get too busy to come in, and then they basically give it to me. But if I have a person that every time I come in, he retracts, that's a sign of a trained person. Then you're going to have to switch to mobility. Try to take out his mobility. Okay? Only when I played with the disarm and the mobility, I start climbing up here. I have no business coming straight here with ignoring this. I'm going to have to break him down. I break him down by either disarm him or by either take out his mobility. Then I'm going upstairs. I got Carlos in front of me. It is very important for you to realize and remember, you need to stay composed, calm, and patient. Don't start jilting yourself into the knife. He's got a knife. Do not ignore that fact, okay? There's a lot of people that get into knife sparring and they get too excited and they just go in just for the sake of going in. I'd rather wait a couple more seconds and read what he's got. Usually, while you look at your opponent, you're going to see if he's trained, you're going to see if he knows what he's doing, and if anything, you're going to be able to detect anything that's coming in much better. With that in mind, I'm going to use a rotation. Okay, rotation means instead of me always coming in straight, slash and stab, even if, let's say, I got a good pyramid technique, I'm nice and tight, my footwork is good, my engagement confidence is good, if I always go in that way, it's my skill against his skills. In other words, if he is as trained as me and as good as me, he can angle up and then it develops from there. A lot of times I'll use a rotation to be a thief. I'm going to steal a half beat. Okay, what that means is every time I turn, Carlos is going to be forced to rotate, to align his knife to be in line with his attack. In other words, when I turn, he rotates. In that time that he rotates, there is a half beat timing behind me. In other words, I am the one who dictated when he gets to move. I can basically now engage. What the rotation will do is it will give me an engagement advantage. In other words, I departed first before he departed. In other words, I rotate him as he rotates, schlag. I got him right there, disarmed him, and then I got a freebie on the entry. It is important that you remember that the patience in the knife sparring is very important. A lot of people get into knife sparring, and because it's a plastic knife, they are going into la-la mode. They're in la-la land. Oh, we're going to do this all day long. That's great. Remember, in reality, it's a real blade, and you'll have one chance, one engagement. In other words, you're not going to have a second chance. And it's important that you learn to be patient, and if you're not sure, start rotating your opponent so you got a half beat advantage on the timing. If I'm in front of Carlos and both of us are basically, I'm rotating, he moves, and I see that he's being cautious, this is a trained individual. This is when you can start elementing, putting the environment to your advantage. Okay, what I mean by that is, maybe I want to projectile something at him. Okay, in Israel, it's usually, I spit at him. Most people, you spit at them, they either move or they go like this, and then you get a complete freebie. In other words, I'm using the environment to help me out, not only rotating. Maybe if I see that there's something behind him, a wall or something, I start putting the pressure on him, and then he, for a second, get shock circuit by bumping into what's behind him. You need to learn to use the environment to your advantage. Not only your weapon, okay? You basically are the individual that's fighting him, you got a weapon, but the environment will play a role here as well, okay? That will also bring up multiple attackers issues and this and that, which I'm not getting right now into it. That will be in the advanced tape. But you have to learn to use environment to your advantage. Maybe you know you got, I'm trying to get connected and it's not good. I know I got some change in my pocket to change Israel and then I can connect. Maybe there's a chair in the way and I bump the chair into him. Use whatever it takes for you to survive. There is no rules. The only rule is that at the end of the engagement you're going home and he's not. Now let's address the issues of advanced tactics. After you have mastered the footwork, the techniques, the principles, you've been introduced to sparring and you develop that, you can move on to advanced tactics. We're going to introduce you to 3 advanced tactics. Number 1 will be the reverse grip style of fighting. Number 2 will be double knife. I got 2 knives against my opponent. And finally, we're going to address the issue of multiple attackers within a knife fight. Reverse grip is a very sneaky and very advanced style of knife fighting. It has a better technique and better tactic in the sense of you're going to completely absorb your opponent and slice him open. In other words, it is a fox style of fighting with a knife versus a fencing style. When you're in regular grip, you're basically fencing. When you're in reverse grip, you're saying, come on in. Come on in my house, I'm going to show you around. That's what a reverse grip is all about. Okay, first we got to review how to hold the knife in a reverse grip. Again, you're going to grab the knife with your knuckles, not with the hand, because you want to align the blade with those knuckles. So I'm right here. As soon as I got that, I'm going to close my hand and my thumb will go right over my other fingers. Do not put your thumb here. You're going to smother the butt hand of the knife, which you're going to need later on anyway. I'm going to be right here. My hands stay loose and I keep a 90-degree angle. In other words, if I'm getting in my fighting stance, that knife stays in a 90-degree angle. That is called the gate of the reverse grip. I want to keep my gate open. If I put the knife like so, some people like to hold it like that just for the style of it, you're closing the gate. Therefore, you took away the whole purpose of why you're fighting in reverse grip. Might as well hold the knife this way. Alright, so I'm keeping my gate open. Now we're going to have to go over the same principles as we did with the regular grip. You're going to have to be able to apply all your pyramid techniques with the reverse grip, starting out with the slashes. So I got slash up, slash down, slash up, horizontal across, slice up, slice down. So all those lines apply on that pyramid like you did before with a regular grip. Same thing applies here with the size of that pyramid. In the beginning, nice and big. So your body records the muscle memory, and if the motion is big, usually your body will remember. You get a little bit better at it, you tighten it up. You get better at it again, you tighten it up to the size of the target that you're going to want to cut. So first thing is the slashes. Second, you're going to have to stab. Again, every time I stab inward the pyramid. If I take this corner, I'm going to stab this way. So the knife goes inward the pyramid. If I take this corner, I'm going to stab this way. I'm not going to stab this way, they'll end up slashing out. So every time I stab, I'm going to stab inward. Again, I make it big first, and then I start tightening up. Every time you stab, it's like a poke, like your ice poking ice. A poke. Don't try to stick the knife into him because it's going to take a long time to stick it out. Just make a hole. Make a hole. That's why you go into the throat. It doesn't take much power to enter a throat with a knife. Alright, finally, you will get the combinations. You got slash and stab. Again, whatever slash you take, you reverse. Slash, reverse into a stab. 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 And finally, you got stab, slash. Stab, slash. Stab, slash. Remember here, you're going to have to turn the blade, so you don't end up raking them. It's important that every time you slash, you're using the blade. You're using the blade. Okay, now that we practice the slashes and the stabs and the combination, now you got to realize, why do I choose to go from regular grip into reverse grip? That is a tactical assessment and tactical decision that you're going to make. You're not going to just go to reverse grip just because I'm going to fight reverse grip this time. When you fight reverse grip with the knife, you are fighting into what I call the fox style. You want to hook him in. Okay, you're going to need to learn how to hook with your knife. Every time he's going to come in, you're going to basically hook him in, trap him, and basically starting to go to work. So it's different than the other style, which is regular grip, where the distance will make a difference on the engagement. When you're in reverse grip, you're going to wait for him to come in and invite him. Now, this will require that you build good skills, because you actually letting him get engaged you. Okay, in some way, psychology-wise, you have the advantage, even though it doesn't look like so, because you are baiting him in. You know he's going to come in. When you're in regular grip, it's kind of like you're finding who's going to engage first. Here, you have half of the stress gone, in the sense of, I know I'm not engaging, so I'm just going to wait. So even though he's engaging first, you will have the timing advantage. Okay, in the segment of the regular grip, when Justin was coming in with a straight angle one, the block was created this so. Okay, the difference between blocking and hooking will be that if Justin comes again, I'm going to hook instead of block. Okay, the reason for that, if I'm in reverse grip and I block, most of the time that will create a disconnection and I never got a chance to pull him in. Alright, so hooking will be hooking him in. This is the reason why in Israeli tactical knife fighting we don't use double-edged blades. Okay, we use singular blade, because if I had a double-edged blade, when I'm hooking, I'm going to end up cutting him and he's going to disconnect just out of being cut. If I have a singular blade, then what happens when I hook him, I can trap him in without him pulling out because he's getting cut. So that's the main reason why in Israeli tactical knife fighting we don't use a double blade as a leading knife. Now you're going to see later on, as we use both knives, two knives, the rear knife will be a dagger, and that knife will be double-edged, because there's no issues of trapping or hooking or bringing him in with a knife. That knife would be simply used as a piston. So the leading knife is never double-edged. If it's a rear knife, that's going to be a double-edged knife. That's why in the military units, the leading knife is always hooked here, like the paratroopers or the special forces, and the secondary knife is a boot knife. And the boot knife is always double-edged. If you get a boot knife, you're going to see it's double-edged. That's why, because leading knife, single-edged. Boot knife, secondary knife, always a dagger. Justin comes in with an angle one attack right here. Again, I do not know if he's coming in with a slash or maybe he's coming with a stab. I am going to deal with it as the line traveling in. Just like I did with the regular grip, I'm going to do with a reverse grip. I'm going to cut the angle to 2 o'clock as a precaution of getting out of the line of traveling of the knife. My other hand is going to go by the neck to protect my throat. In the process, I'm going to block. Now this is for training purposes. I am building you up to be able to hook directly without blocking, but you're not going to need this point of reference as a learning tool. As soon as I got a block here, I'm going to hook it. Now when I hook, I'm coming in with a 90 degree. This is when I said earlier, if you have a reverse grip and it's like this, as you would have blocked, it would have slid in. Or you never get a chance to hook because you close the gate. You always keep it 90 degree so the gate is open for the hook. Again, he comes in, block, and hook. Now when I hook, what I'm going to do is I am going to circle up until my elbow is higher than my shoulder. If your elbow is lower than your shoulder, you're going to direct him to your neck and he's going to kill you. In other words, every time you hook, that elbow has to be higher than your shoulder. I call this the Quasimodo technique, because look like Quasimodo. In other words, if you don't feel like Quasimodo for 1 second, you got it wrong. Again, it's here and up, so that elbow is higher than the shoulder, so he cannot cut you in your throat. One more time, he comes in, 1, and right here. From here, I have a trap. 1, slash, stab, out I go, just like the same way I did with a regular grip. Again, he comes in, 1, hook. From here, I go to the elbow. Go to the elbow. As I check here, now I can go down here. Do not go down here without getting the elbow. If you didn't get the elbow and you went down here, he's just going to cut your throat open. Okay, so again, he comes in, 1, 2, elbow above shoulder, check his elbow, slash, stab in the kidney. I'm going to take his mobility on my way out and get away from the knife by cutting the angle, and right there is the end of my engagement. Now, as soon as you have developed the block and you got the footwork done and you got the positioning done, now you're ready to go into straight to hook. It is very important here to realize that what's going to make you survive this is the footwork more than anything else, in the entry and on the way out. Every time you position yourself according to the footwork, you are going to determine if you're going to survive or not survive this engagement, because when you're in reverse grip, essentially you have less length with the knife. Therefore, you're inviting them closer. You're going to have to compensate that by having superb footwork. As it comes in, I'm going to hook straight in. From here, slash, stab, on my way out. Remember, on my way out, I don't want to come here and try to get out here, and now he kills me on the way out. I'm always going to get out of the line of the traveling of the knife when I'm on my way out. Again, I'm here, hooking in, 1, 2, and out we go. Okay, this time Justin comes in with an attack on angle 2. Again, I don't know if it's a slash coming in or I don't know if it's a stab coming in. I will treat it the same way. Again, as he comes in, I'm going to angle up and I'm going to shoot my blade with the block first as a training device. In other words, originally I'm going to hook, but I'm going to get you there first with the block. Again, he comes in, I angle out to 10 o'clock, other hand by the neck just in case, and the block gets established here. Now it's important that you realize earlier on angle 2 we did this, and we came here, and this, and we cut out. Okay, yes, you can do the same thing with a reverse grip, and come here and this and that, but the problem with that is, in many times when you block here, they're going to disconnect anyway. And the style of hooking is to bring them in so you can completely demolish him, not giving them a chance to get out. So that is the reason why we chose the reverse grip, because we want to hook them in. If I wanted to block it, I would have used regular grip. Okay, so again, he comes in. First thing is the block. From here, I'm going to hook and circle out and serve it right here into my trap. Again, he comes in, stop it, hook, serve it right here. From here, slash, stab. Again, you have the option here, slash, stab to the groin, slash, stab to the abdominals. I'm going to pull out, mobility here, and angle out here. Always angling out of the knife traveling line. Again, he comes in, 1. From here, serve it right here. Slash, stab, mobility, and out we go. Justin comes in, I'm going straight to hook. Now it is important here that you remember, when you go straight to hook, it is your footwork that gives you that insurance that you're not going to cut. If Justin comes in and I simply hook, I'm going to hook him right into my organs. I'm going to need to cut to 10 o'clock as I hook, so I never got cut. At the end of the hook on this one, I'm going to trap. Again, when I trap him here, don't do it with your thumb. If you go with your thumb, there's 2 liabilities to that. Number 1, your knife is down here, and you might nip yourself with your own knife. Number 2, as soon as you grab here, if he yanks to any direction, I'm going to be going with it because I grabbed him. Do not grab him, just cup it with your hand. Again, so Justin comes in, 1, and right here. From here, slash, and stab. I'm going to have to angle out of the knife route. Coming out, take his mobility on the way out on this angle. Again, coming in, 1, slash, stab, take his mobility, and out we go. One more time, coming in, 1, slash, stab, and coming out, and here we go. This time Justin comes in across with an angle 3. Again, I don't know if he's coming with a slash or I don't know if he's coming with a curved stab. In other words, I'm going to deal with it the same way of the line that's coming in. Again, as he comes in, I'm going to move to 2 o'clock. So I don't stay focused in front of him. If in anything, I make him pass the line of the attack. As I do so, he comes in, I'm going to put my block. Again, this is just for the stage of you learning. I'm putting my block here. My other hand is going to be by my neck. From here, I'm going to hook until I look like Quasimodo again. Elbow above shoulder. Do not, because the attack is lower, come on in Justin, be lazy and only come here and then he comes across your neck and it's over. It is important that you bring it all the way up for security purposes. Again, he comes in, 1. I hook all the way up. As soon as I'm here, I'm going to have to check his elbow, slash, stab in the kidney. Again, I'm going to have to stay away from that knife. I find my way out, closing the door, taking the mobility on this angle. One more time, coming in, 1. From here, hooking all the way up, checking the elbow, slash, stabbing in the kidney, and closing the door, angling out away from his knife. All right, Justin comes in with his angle 3, and I choose to hook right away. It is important here again that as I hook, I move. If I don't move and I simply hook, I'm going to get cut. I have to angle out and make sure my elbow is above shoulder. When I have this neutralized, only then I come in with my counter attack and with closing the door. Again, one more. This time Justin comes in with an angle 4, right across. Again, I don't know if he's coming in with a slash or if he's coming in with a curved stab. To me, it doesn't make a difference. I'm going to deal with it as the line of travel of the knife. As he comes in, first thing I'm going to do is angle out. Again, very important here on the reverse grip. You cannot operate without angling up on reverse grip because your hand has less length and you're bringing him in, you're going to have to compensate by the footwork. So as he comes in, I'm going to angle up to 10 o'clock. I'm using the block as a training hazard to go into the hooking. From here, I bring him up into the trap. Remember, do not put your thumb. If you put your thumb, it's too close to your own blade. If you put your thumb anywhere he goes with that hand, pull, right, I'm going to go with it, and that's going to be a liability in the fight. Again, as he comes in, angle out, 1 here. As soon as I got it here, slash across, stab. Pull out, and take his mobility on the way out. Again, came in here, 1. From here, hook, slash, stab, angle out, take the mobility, close the door. Justin comes in. Again, he comes in with an angle 4. I'm going to go straight to a hook. On this one again, you need the footwork. If you go to hook without the footwork, you're going to get cut. It's important, I keep repeating it, but it's important for your survival. The footwork on hooking is essential. You don't have it, you're not going to survive the first engagement. You didn't get to survive the first engagement, you never got to finish him up, so it's important. As he comes in, I angle up, straight to hook. I serve it into the trap, slash across, stab, and cut out the angle by closing the door. Again, he comes in, 1, shrug, tuck, and close the door. One more time. As he comes in, 1, and close the door. This time Justin is going to come in with a straight stab. He's just rushing in with a straight stab. This time I'm going to hook him in, and I'm going to use a howling of my bodies, and I do so. As he comes in, I'm going to do this. Again, as he comes in, I'm doing this. Okay? My body, I'm not going to shuffle back or take a step back. If I do so, come on in, I ain't got nothing. I didn't get to hook him. In other words, hooking is inviting him in. I'm going to invite him in by howling my body and make him believe that he's going to get what he's going to get. Again, I'm here, and all I'm doing is this. Now, if you look at my footwork, originally my heel is up. And as I go back, I replace that so I can create this space right here. Again, right here. Now, one of the big reasons why it is better for me to do this versus going backward. Number one, going backward, I won't hook him. And number two, maybe I'm not aware of what's behind me. And I try to back up, and there's a wall behind me, and he gets his stab because the wall stopped me. So again, if I'm here, I know I'm occupying this space. I'm going to keep occupying that space, but I'm going to change my posture so I can hook him in. Again, he comes in, and I hook him in. Here, there is no block. It's going to be, go slow motion, please. It's going to go straight into a hook. Now, again, at the end of my hook, my elbow is going to be above my shoulder. From here, I'm going to piston straight out, control the elbow, slash, stab. And I'm going to find myself out on this angle, closing the door. Again, coming in, one, elbow above shoulder, piston in, slash in the process, stab, close the door, take his mobility out. Justin now comes in with a shot from below. In other words, he comes in just coming from below. On this one, I am going to use a block no matter what. Even if I'm going to continue with the hook, I'm going to start with the block because the motion is just too strong and it's going to be too much of taking a chance to try to hook right away. So here, first thing, I'm going to block. As soon as I got the block, I'm going to hook this way. Not disconnecting, because you can afford to disconnect here. It's coming right into your body. I'm blocking here, hooking here. From here, up we go again. Elbow, 1, 2, and out I go. Again, as he comes in, 1. Right here, up I go. Almost like a puppet on a string. Again, 1, up, slash, tap, and out we go. Double knives. That brings us to the issue of double knives. Usually in a military setup, the leading knife will be a single blade and the rear knife will be a dagger. There is a reason for that. The leading knife has to have the option to be able to hook if I choose to go in reverse grip, and also so I can threaten my opponent without actually endangering him. A lot of times, instead of me using the blade, I'll use the door pod. He doesn't know that, and he's intimidated, and I'll get the information out of him real fast. In other words, the knife up front has to be a single blade. Rear knife is a dagger. Now I'm going to pick you up from what I left you the last segment with a reverse grip. Carlos is going to come in with an understab. I'm right here. Again, I'm right here to begin with. From here, I'm coming up. Now instead of me trapping and coming in with this knife, I got a dagger that's working like a piston. Every technique, if he comes in with an angle 1 and I came here, this is going to come in as a piston. My rear knife is used as a piston. So really, double knife is the same thing as single knife, reverse grip, just your rear hand is always working as a piston. Again, so he comes in, I'm coming 1, in, and right here. All right? So anytime you have double knife, you can piston down. Now, military setup, sometimes he attacks. He's got a knife, and I got a knife, and I know I cannot take his life. I need the information out of him. In other words, automatically, if I have two knives or whatever, I am going to come into reverse grip, because I'm going to have to hook him in. As I hook him in, if he comes in under stab, right now, instead of dagging in, I can go in behind and here. Now he knows I got two knives. This will be intimidation factor to begin with. Now the dagger on this scenario will be used as a disarm. In other words, when I come here, as I come up here, I'm going to basically piston into the hand of the knife. In other words, I'm come one and come right here. See the disarm? And now I can come in. And I chose not to take his life. So double knife can be used as a piston on the hand that's holding the knife from the hooking, or it can be to take him out with the dagger motion. That brings us to the issue of multiple